The forums have been a little quiet lately. As we're in between the core system updates, it's understandable. Nobody really is sure what to do, what to test out, what to check for bugs. Last week's episode, I suggested keeping up on the combat glyph bug that we were experiencing and trying to keep reporting on it and finding out information on it. But with the released information on the combat system update, I'm not entirely sure that we need to even worry about it. From the sounds of it, there's going to be a whole complete system change as to how the combat is done, how the glyphs are done, how the spells are done. So keeping up on that glyph bug may not be an issue that we need to worry about. Now, we are between system updates. As such, the forums have been quiet from the devs, so hopefully that means they're working hard on the new updates. They did tweet about the upcoming open beta, that it should be hitting sometime this summer, and then once the open beta is done, of course, the full release will come. So we're looking probably September, October time for a full release, but that may get pushed back even more depending on what they plan on doing with the different core systems and how much they continue to build and work with everything going on. It's even possible, and this is just me throwing this out there, nothing from the devs, that the full release may not come until the wands are ready, which is still about 8 months out. So we'll just have to see how things go. There have been a few forum changes, and it seems that it's helping out with the spammers. I'm not going to go into more on that, just simply because we've had enough with the spammers, and it's been kind of quiet and kind of nice. Now I am going to take a closer look at the new combat system, at least do a little theory crafting on the combat system itself based off of what we've heard and what we've seen with the most recent update with the brewing. So we'll see how that goes. Also, we've seen some lore information released. I want to look more into that and see what we can get out of that lore information that has been released. From the sounds of it, there's going to be more core system updates and changes. So it's going to be a little difficult in between the core system updates. There's going to be a rash of excitement and use during the time that a core system has been updated and released. However, in between those times, depending on what gets updated and what gets released, there may not be a lot going on. There may be a lot of quiet time. So in those in-between times, I'm going to work on a little theory crafting. I'm going to put out some suggestions and stuff that have been put out on the forums. I'm going to discuss some of the ideas that may or may not get implemented later on into the Maguss game itself. But I will definitely go into some different things and get some thoughts going. We'll see how things go. But as it is, let's take a look at what's going on. I just wanted to toss this a quick apology in. Unfortunately, the weather here has been kind of horrible, so I haven't been able to get outside and do the recordings that I've been wanting to do. That's the reason this video is late like it is. I am, however, working on creating an indoor space to record some of my stuff, so that going forward, probably a lot more is going to be recorded from this indoor space. I'm still going to try and have some outdoor stuff added into the videos, but I'm probably going to do most of my recording indoors at this space once I get it completed. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you've heard the name Lilithan come up a few times. And well, there's a reason for that. He's really stepped up and made himself part of the community, a leader in the community. He's created the Czech community, making a website and forum for them, as well as he's hosted the first Maguss gathering that we've had as yet. I'm not the only one that's noticed some of the stuff he's done. He has now been promoted to being a moderator in the forums, and I wanted to congratulate him real quick on his promotion, and hope he looks forward to all the fun we get to have playing with the Korean spammers and, well, just helping out all the new people and the players within the forum, getting them the information they need, and just, you know, keeping the community well up to date. So again, congrats Lilithan, and welcome to the team. Last week while I was putting together the episode, the devs posted to Facebook about the game. They posted a couple of pictures throughout the week. The big post that they put out first was that the first draft of the lore is finished. There's a lot at this point to tweak and polish, but soon we should release it. In the meanwhile, enjoy the concept art which will accompany the story. More graphics during the week. They've continued to put out a total of 4 pictures so far. There may be more that come out later on. And it looks like the promised lore will be coming out soon. Now, as it said, this is the first draft, and it's just that. It still needs polish, it needs cleaned up, it needs checked to make sure it works within the game system, and that the game system will work with it. While we wait, I wanted to take some time and look at the images and see what I can come up with from them. Do a little speculation based off of the lore that I understand in the pictures. So I may be right, partially right, or way off. Take from it what you will, but let's take a look at these pictures and see what we can get from them. To start with, we have what I call exploration. We have 3 visible people in the picture with the focus on an Indian-looking Maguss. And yes, until told otherwise, I'm going to assume these pictures are those of Maguss. The Indian man is interesting. Is this his familiar that he carries, the bird? Or is he using his beast knowledge to gain some insight into the area, or information about something? Based off the knowledge we have of the orders, I would put this man to be part of the Circle of the Guild. The middle man is carrying a sword. I would put this Maguss to possibly be from the Order of Enthrallment, though it could be just a form of machete for cutting through the forest they are traveling. The forest is overgrown and temperate, but not thick, so maybe found in Indo-Asia. Next we have a lass by the seashore. The gulls give it away. Rocky with cliffs. She has with her a necklace, but carrying it, not wearing it. With a smile on her face, I don't think she is there to throw it in. More likely she is there with somebody she cares about. In the third picture, entitled We All Have Demons, we see a tattooed Maguss at his desk. Candles, tomes, and potions all around. Eyes hiding in the background. While they could be pets and familiars, the title pushes us another direction. Before him sits scrolls with arcane drawings and a tome with what appears to be a human figure. He sits with a distant stare, holding a similar necklace to that the woman was holding. This could be the same, and either he was the one to give it to her, or he was the one behind the second picture that she was smiling at. The distant look almost conveys a wistful regret, but at the very least a person deep in thought. The fourth picture, labeled The One Who Went Too Far, here I think we see a glimpse of the antagonist of the story, possibly the one from the previous picture. If you look at both of their right eyes, we can see a similar tattoo. In the background shadows, we can see what appears to be an army. Maguss or mundane, it's hard to tell, but he is definitely throwing around some powerful magic. Either he is raising some spirits or is he destroying some people. No clear picture is given of this casting. From this, I see the possibility of a man in love who lost it all. He researched either a way of revenge or a way of raising the dead. Either way, the fourth picture shows his clash with what I'm going to say is an army of Maguss, the outcome of which we don't currently know. Who is this Maguss? Who is the girl? What happened to bring it to this point? And how did the conflict affect the Maguss history? We shall find out soon, I'm sure, but we must wait till more comes out. Now they're working on putting in some new player stats. We've already seen them in our inventory with the latest update. They haven't got them fully implemented yet, but they're hoping to get them in place relatively soon. Those stats are Empower, Concentration, Magical Defense, Evasion, Critical Chance, and Critical Damage. They've also announced with this update that there'll be new skills. Before we had skills such as One Lore, Spellcasting, Dark Arts, Exploration, Alchemy. So we're not sure entirely what skills we're going to get with this new update. But I'm sure some of them are going to play into the new spells that are coming out. But they've announced that they want to do a little more with the map exploration. So I'm sure we'll see some skills that tie in with that. Now with these new skills, I'm sure there's going to be some new perks. Before we had special perks that increased the damage for certain spells as our spellcasting went up in those departments. We saw increased slots with spellcasting. We saw increased node output with alchemy. And we saw healing with exploration. Now there's no guarantee that those are going to continue on. As yet, no perks are currently working within the game. They did say there's going to be 85 new spells. These spells are going to be broken up into different groups, such as charms, offense, defense, things of that nature. In these groups, or what they're calling branches or trees, you're then going to be able to take a couple of spells, anywhere from 1 to 3, and assign them to a glyph. This will allow for different combinations of spells when you're in your duels and your combat. Now when you go into combat, however, you're only going to be able to choose 2 schools of magic, or 2 areas, offense, defense, whatever. So this is going to make for some interesting gameplay when we get into the dueling as well as with the combats. Because with this, you're not going to see the same people having the same groups coming into the duel. So it's going to put a lot of randomness in when it comes to the gameplay. Also, with your stats, you're going to see a lot of randomness come in as well, because we're not entirely sure just yet how those stats are going to come into play when it comes to gaming. They're also adding in spell enchants, and from what they've mentioned, basically this means that as loot, you're going to get different pieces of parchment, that once you get a full one, you combine them together and you seal them with a different level of seal, and depending on the level of seal that you use, you'll get a random scroll of that level. They also plan on doing spell enchantments, where you can actually enchant spells that you have learned onto scrolls. Now this may come into play later with trading, this may come into play with one-off uses during combat. I'm not sure, they haven't really announced how the scroll enchants are going to play out. I don't see any use for you to have a scroll for a spell that you already have learned, so it's got to be some kind of trade or one-off use for when you only have those 2 branches during the dueling. Now I do hope that they do some adjustments with the XP, because currently with the way the system is, all the XP that you gain from your spell casting, from your exploration, from your ingredient use, from your alchemy, really makes leveling too easy. Before in the alpha, it took a couple of weeks to get up there past about 20-25. Once you reach max level, you're going to get a little bit bored, because you're not going to have a whole lot to do until they come out with new content, increase the level cap, things of that nature. So they need to stretch out the leveling so that it's not quite so quick. Reaching max level in 1 month is way too quick, I think. Now I did want to end the episode with a little bit of theory crafting on some of the stuff that we have seen, stuff that has been put out in the forums, little blurbs here and there as to what's going on. Now the evasion and the crit stats, they're going to allow for a faster paced gameplay, putting in a randomness to the gameplay that we haven't seen as yet. By having the crit stats in there, you're going to have spells that will occasionally do more damage than they normally would. Or you're going to, with evasion, have spells not do the damage that they would. Either completely missing altogether or doing a smaller amount than they would. One thing I had an idea about is the concentration stat. What if the concentration stat is a damage bonus based off of how accurately you draw that glyph? The better you draw the glyph, the more damage you'll do on top of its base damage. Now, again, this is just speculation and theory crafting. It could be just simple concentration allowing you, like I said before, to be a little sloppier with your glyph. I don't see that being a good thing, allowing a stat that allows you to be sloppier with your glyph, because as you get better in the game, you're not going to be as sloppy with the glyph. So a concentration stat that allows you to do more damage with the more accurately you draw the glyph would be something I could see helping out as you get better at the game, as you level up within the game, doing more damage and getting those glyphs more accurate is just something that's going to happen naturally throughout your gameplay. Now they do have to be careful with it though. I know the frustration. I've seen it in a couple of games. There's a newer game out right now. You run into a problem that randomness affects the gameplay too much. And so once you start pulling out that skill aspect too much, and the ability for you to win a duel or win a combat situation based off a random die roll, or losing to that random die roll, will really build up the frustration in the player and make it harder for that player to want to play when they don't feel like they really have any control over whether they win or lose, and it's just up to the random roll of the dice. So hopefully, while these new stats are going to adjust the gameplay, they don't do it so much that the skill aspect is really taken out of the gameplay. It's great to see game mechanics like this being put into the game and introduced, and I can't wait to see what other mechanics they might be implementing into the gameplay. However, we've still got a lot of time to go before they get through everything. I know they've talked about several different core systems that they want to update, but they haven't really gone into detail as to what those core systems are. I mean, we've seen the combat system is one that they want to update, specifically the spellcasting. They've updated the brewing. They're looking at implementing more enchantment and gear from the looks of it. They did mention that they want more map interaction and travel and exploration to encourage you to get out and move more so you're not staying in one place as much. But in order to encourage a lot of this, they're going to have to change some of the way they do things. And I'll get more into it in other episodes as I go into more theory crafting in between the core system updates. Because trust me, there's a lot I'd like to see happen and a lot that could potentially happen. However, a lot of it's going to require some thought on their part, some coding, and a lot more development. So that it may be something that'll have to come later on, and they just have to build the foundation now in order to implement that later on.
So that's it for this episode. I'm going to try and keep some theory crafting going in between the system updates, so that way we've got something to fill in between, give us something to think about and something to discuss, try and keep the momentum going, try and keep the enthusiasm for the game going, and give us all something to really contemplate and try and help out with building the game up. I know the devs are listening to us, and they are trying to take what they can of our ideas and implement them into the game along with their own ideas. But again, it is their game, and so it's their ideas that come to the forefront when it comes out. Hopefully we'll see the backstory come out soon. I know I've been looking forward to seeing some of the lore come out, and there's a few others that have been as well. Hopefully we'll see some more of the pictures coming out to give us a better idea of what's going on. So we'll have to see where everything goes from here. But so far, I'm still enthusiastic about the game. It seems to be something that is really shaping up. It may not be coming out as quickly as they wanted it to. We may be seeing some delays as far as the wand and the game, because they're wanting to make this a great game. So that means there's going to be delays, there's going to be things that change as they find better ways to do stuff, or as people suggest better ways to do stuff, or they find something that just isn't working right and they want to make it better. So we've got to stick with it, and we've got to keep our head up and keep the momentum going. But anyways, it's dinner time. So till next episode, keep your shield up and your wand at the ready, and we'll catch you later.